And we are live. Hello, everybody. This is WDBM Jesse Taconelli speaking, and we are talking to Arthur, the artist that has enigmatically appeared on our airwaves since I'd say about 2017. And yeah, without any further ado, how you doing?
I'm great. Woke up, didn't sleep too much, but I feel pretty good. It's a nice day. It's probably like a little too warm almost to be wearing this jacket, but
Yeah, totally. And you are back in the woods. You're back in Delaware County. You're out of the city.
yeah, I wish I could show you. I don't think you can see some of the trees there. I don't know is the video going to be on here?
Yeah, we're in that video, I think.
Okay, cool. Yeah, the trees, boom. I'm back. I had to get out of the city because it was freaking me out.
Oh yeah, totally. How does it feel to be there? What kind of role does this house play in your life?
I grew up here since I was like 3.
Yeah.
And I lived here until high school. And then I went to boarding school for a little bit, but I would come back here and so a lot of all my first records were recorded here. My last record was recorded here because it usually is pretty serene, but now a lot of people have moved back amidst this and other reasons. So now it's pretty crazy. So it's a little different. Even in here with my little shack where I am right now, where I'm going to be recording probably my next record, I'm splitting it with my friend Stratton. So we sleep in the same bed and my cat's in there. He's probably going to start screaming at some point and trying to rip the door open.
Yeah, and friend of the chat, Stratton.
Stratton.
Shout out. And I wanted to ask you also, do you think that the world is a bit more prepared for a record like Hair of the Dog? So the reason we're discussing anything with Arthur today, by the way, is Hair of the Dog, his album that follows up Woof Woof, comes out on Friday as of today, May 15th. I don't know when this is coming out, but May 15th, Hair of the Dog.
Yeah. Wait, so what's the question? Is the world more or less ready?
Do you think they're more prepared? Do you think that some of the kind of alienating themes on it and stuff may find a world more ready to welcome this record?
I think people are probably more ready, but that almost makes it less special in a way, because that's almost what frustrates me about it most is that everyone's trying to make music right now, but luckily this is not of that time. It's almost the same idea, but in a controlled space. I was unintentionally quarantined, but then anytime someone tells you do this, sit, bark, whatever, it's not as fun as when you are sitting and barking on your own. So
it's actually kind of in quite the same experience. I think that you were around December this year. I was also spending a decent amount of time inside, and it was just on my own volition. Yeah, it was just snowy out. Didn't want to see anybody. Wanted to record and hang out.
And that's kind of magic, on its own. It's magic when you make the distinction. But I guess creativity within restriction is cool too, but it's not the same when you're deciding, or I don't know. That was my favorite thing to do, but now it gets boring after a few months.
Yeah, I feel once people started to tell me to stay inside and play Smash Bros all day, it just wasn't fun. Damn right.
Yeah, I can't even, man. I want to play games, but it's it makes me feel crazier.
So you probably mentioned this briefly before, but yeah, you played a lot of video games growing up at this place, and the intro to the record is a track called 8 Melodies, which will probably come off familiar to anybody who has any liminal experience with the Earthbound and Mother trilogy, Super Smash Bros. Melee. Yeah, can you talk to us a bit about 8 Melodies?
It's from there's a really old advert for the first Mother game that has this really nice choral version of it. It's just a bunch of children singing. And it's a cool little advert where Nintendo and all his cronies roll up and they just because I never beat the first one because it was hard, but I always played Earthbound, and for some reason my memory, I always thought 8 Melodies was in Earthbound, and it might be, but I can't remember. But it's always been ever since I was little, 11 or 10, and just typing things on the internet, looking up old Nintendo stuff, that advert always stuck with me, and it felt I don't know, because I like making kind of my music just comes across as dark. I think that's because it's the easiest, not the easiest, but it's just how things come out of my mind. But I just love moments of hope, because there's a few songs on there. That song and the last song are both little choirs singing songs, and that song is just very special to me. It makes me weep.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally understand the statement. It makes me weak when it comes to a melody that just kind of transports you. It's doesn't need words even, and you put your own words on it. But like, I'm sure just hearing that melody alone is
Well, those are the actual words to the song. I didn't even write words; they just are there.
really that take a melody simple as can be.
Yeah, yeah, they wrote words because there's like an actual. I think they did like a whole Mother album, and I don't know if that was intentionally recorded for the album, with like vocalists and stuff. But
Mhm.
yeah, but also that song just reminds me of playing Earthbound like with my sister when we were little, like uh, in some dark periods of our life, uh, where we couldn't really leave our house, or like we didn't really want to have people over. We would just sit in the corner of a room and play that game. And it's always like one of the worlds that, I feel like a lot of people have a world that they wish they could live in other than their own. Like the stereotypical ones would be like something like Lord of the Rings or like Harry Potter, something that people can immerse themselves in. But I always like that really quirky, uh, like Mother Earthbound world. It feels like as friendly as danger can be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that sentiment is what draws a lot of the biggest Arthur fans out there into your like world. There's like this magnetism to the art project that you have where you're channeling the video game inspo in a singer-songwriter fashion. Would you agree more or less? Like you're playing with video game ideas in your melodies and rhythms that are being put into like a singer-songwriter uh, format. Kind of.
Definitely. And I think that's a big part of my music is I don't like it being like this being Arthur or something. I like uh I like interactive stuff, and I think young people growing up and like old people, middle-aged people, all kinds of people like interactivity, and they like being given choices. And like I try and make stuff that doesn't, not like the whole Sun Ra, like I'm an alien type thing, but just something that takes you away from where you are. Like it's just probably all music, but like in the way that video games like gave me my challenges and my peace and my exploration. I like to like kind of try and capture like what a theme in a video game could do in the
Mhm.
least cheesy way possible.
Yeah, so I think that magnetism comes in from people with very similar experience. I'm sure a lot of the Arthur fans who've gravitated towards the writing on Wolf Wolf in the first record definitely like were also people that explored the world on a screen a bit too, and that's really a rare thing. I think one of the only people to touch on it besides you here there's probably Alex G. Has like vaguely alluded to like video games on like tracks like Nintendo 64, but it is a burgeoning concept. It's brand new.
Yeah, he's a big Zelda guy,
He's a
and
big
also a fellow Delaware County uh uh past resident like you. And
yes, fellow Havertown.
right, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, true.
And you mentioned that Arthur isn't just this, and you're also somebody that I've known to have many different names. When I met you, you were Con Shay, and then that's not even your real name. And then you were Arthur Shay, and now you're just Arthur with all caps. Can you talk to us a bit about name changes?
I guess in the same way that I want Arthur to be like a person, it's kind of fun to like for me not to be a person too, because it makes it easier if that's why I became Arthur, is because Arthur was like who I wanted to be, like kind of like like Excalibur, like pulling the sword from the stone. It was like I wanted to give myself power or like be someone else.
Mhm.
Uh,
So did you drop the last name?
just for mystery, when I was working with Joe with Please, we were just like, we could do without the last name, but also it makes it a lot harder to look up. So I'm trying to get the music popping enough that it's one of the first Arthurs that comes up.
Because there's a big red dog in your path, sir.
A big red dog? You mean that's Clifford?
Oh wait, that's Clifford. Oh wow, there's
You're
a
thinking
big
of
gory aardvark in your path.
less dangerous than Clifford. Clifford would stomp me out.
Dude,
Arthur's
how did I mix this up? I knew there was an aardvark. Well, you're Arthur Dog, and he's Arthur Aardvark. All
right.
right.
Yeah, true.
Um, I
I'm
will.
I'm just whatever.
I did want to touch on dogs a bit. Can you talk to us a bit about dogs? You're in the midst of a bit of a dog trilogy. There's a lot of dogs on Arthur's First, and
Right.
I don't want to speak for the symbolism or anything. And there's dogs. I mean, woof woof, and you sold dog bowls for merch, and now here we are with Hair of the Dog. That's the morning after, you know.
Right. That's the thing. I feel like I kind of wanted to come out of that because I feel like almost in a way the dogs are part of like the darkness in my life. It kind of represents everything I just feel like I had to deal with for a long time. And it's just like wolves barking at the moon, but I don't really want to be part of that pack anymore. I'm ready to move on. And I think I'm ready to like make some personal changes too. So that's why Hair of the Dog, it's like, you know, Hair of the Dog that bit me. Like I first heard that in The Shining, when he loses his mind and he goes to the bartender, you know what I mean? He's like, what do you have? He's like, Hair of the Dog that bit me or whatever. That
Yeah,
stuck with me because I was little when I saw that movie and I was always like, what does that mean? And now I'm like, all right, well, this is what it, you know, it's like, you know.
yeah, you learn how it feels, the hair of the dog that bit you, and how it tastes. And also, that's a movie about isolation, funnily enough.
I haven't seen that movie. Is it good?
The Shining?
Oh, The Shining. I think you were saying there was a movie called Hair of the Dog.
Oh no, it's the Shining is a movie about alienation,
It's
isolation.
too circular. It's like, I'm not even surprised by the connections that just make themselves anymore.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's not too much to be said about it. I'm sure by the time everyone sees this, they'll still be inside.
Right, I know. They will be, man. Who knows? It could be 2 years from now. Not when this comes out, but for how, I mean, you know, how
Yeah,
long.
we have no clue to know the way the world's going, but hopefully this record can find them solace and some catharsis and stuff in the midst of it,
Right.
because yeah, this record has there's a lot going on for it, for people who are yet to hear it. There's a lot going on this record that has taken me. I've listened to it probably like 30 times now at least.
Dude, thank you so much for listening, man.
Of course, but I mean, there's tiny sounds that I'm pulling out each time from a large just encapsulation of lots of digital processed melodies and counter melodies and ideas going on. How
Yeah,
did
I don't even know half the sounds that are in there because it just a lot of them just make themselves pretty quickly, you know.
how did you come to this conclusion on tracks like I guess Feel Good and No Tango, where there's just kind of this menagerie of melodies and counter melodies and stuff.
Those ones is usually just like on really off days, just like messing around with a concept that just been sitting in my brain. Like if I was around people or I wasn't feeling good, I would like start like just like a little beat or something or like a little melody would start and I would just kind of like play around with it and then I put it in my computer either as like a voice memo or just like me singing into my phone and then I'd manipulate it and then you start plugging in the guitars, you start plugging in the effects and you start and it just becomes something kind of scary and then you're like, oh, okay, how do I turn this into a pop song? And then you bridge the gap. You're like just, you know, and like in Ableton, you just drag the waveform a little bit longer and start putting more things in and, you know.
And I think a fundamental issue with being a music listener in general is that we don't need to hear every pop song to start to feel like we've heard it all.
Right.
I don't think nobody's ever going to come close to hearing a fraction of all the music in the world, but we start to feel that way, some of us a lot sooner than others. So is that how you're kind of dealing with the idea of making pop music in an original context? Like
I
how
think
you describe these bridging the gaps?
Say it again. Say that part again.
You kind of touched on like bridging the gaps between like your world and the pop world. Is that kind of how you're tackling originality?
Yeah, I just try not to think about it too hard because I like a ton of music and I've listened to a lot of music in the past, but I try not to like. Sometimes the best songs are like what you start with the simplest, like, you know, just like 2 chords or 4 chords. Just like it doesn't have to be special chords either. It's everything that comes between, and it's the way you make it feel. Because people will be like, "Wow, that chord progression is so weird," and I'll be like, "Oh, I didn't realize it's just a few notes you add in just to suggest something, a different chord, or just to suggest something that wouldn't have been there, but it's just all feel based." But
There's
like,
a lot of
I
funky
just try and
stuff.
write songs just as what they are, just not. I don't try and like determine what they're going to be, because if you try and think about what they're going to be in the end, it'll end up just sounding like junk. You know.
I think there's a lot of funk music on this record at points too. It's something that we kind of lost in the pop zeitgeist for a second in a world of like, oh, dreamy music and bedroom pop and stuff. We definitely lost like that solidity of like a rockin' backbeat and like funky bass lines and stuff. Can you talk to us a bit about funk and like?
Yeah, sure. I liked a lot of. I grew up just listening to like a lot of, in the car with my parents, listening to like Motown, and I liked like silly music, like front bass in the front style music, like stuff that's just even like silly, like Primus. I was obsessed with when I was little. So
Yeah.
I always feel like I like using the bass and the drums as almost like as like the melody, not in a cheesy way, because people are always like the bass is the melody and stuff, but it doesn't have to be, because like you listen to songs and sometimes the best thing is when the drums are just straight and the bass is just straight. But then when you can find a place where sometimes it's best when neither of them are straight, it's just a chaotic mess. So it's just, I don't know, I like that stuff. I don't like playing like dead music. I don't like dead music. I can't listen to a lot of like 80s like dead punk stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's stuff that feels kind of decrepit or morbid. Yeah, you need something that's kind of lively.
Yeah.
I think that it's something that also comes in cycles in the pop world for sure. Like people aren't really ready for it sometimes, and I think when they are, we get a Jamiroquai and we get a Franco Battiato. You're a fan of him. I've seen you post about him, and like that's a guy that just took over Italy with like a really bizarre, unique funk sound.
Was he really big? The guy that does the weird stuff, like like Cell, whatever, and Energy and stuff. That stuff, right? It's just
It wasn't big, but like his records have surfaced as like a triumph in recent day at least.
yeah.
Like when
I
people,
found that through one of my friends who's like mixing the new Ariel Pink remasters. Showed me that in his little studio in New York. And it just like we were just all like really stoned or something, and it came on, and we were all just like, "This is some weird sci-fi music," you know? I
yeah, that one's great, and that other record they just Voce de Pardon. I think it stands for like Voice of the Master or something. It's just like the nuttiest, like funkiest record.
I gotta listen to that one.
Dude, yeah, I'll shoot it over to
Yeah,
you.
please, after this.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you're also touching on atonal stuff occasionally in your music. There's things that sync between notes per se. There's sounds on Hair of the Dog that aren't in the Western canon of composition.
Do you have like a specific reference?
Yeah, I'd say the way that the synths kind of bend and stuff on a track like Biz, I'd
Right.
say I'd say Fix definitely swirls things like way outside of just like the effects that you're using are taking things away from like major and minor tonalities and stuff.
Yeah, I kind of like that. Like sometimes unintentionally, it's cool when a note kind of sounds like you're playing like on a piano if you're just playing the second. But I don't know what you would call it if you did the flat second. I don't know, like just like two notes next to each other. Sometimes it's cool just creating that tension. But I do it on purpose and on accident. But I like doing a lot of clustery kind of like voice leading stuff, especially when I'm playing keyboards and stuff. And sometimes it gets a little mixed up. But I like that because I don't. All music doesn't have to be like pretty and dainty. It can be like a mess of sound. That's sometimes the best music. That's why I like bands like we were talking about. With Les Rouses, the Nudes.
Mm-hmm.
They're cool. They're cool. I started listening to them because I'm not really hugely. I like krautrock, like Can and stuff like that. But I'm not like I can't say like I'm a music aficionado about a lot of stuff. But I like that band because it made me think about music differently in a way that like I like how lazy and sloppy it can be. You know what I mean? And making like pristine pop stuff. Sometimes I feel like people are really trying to influence me, or some of the people I work with do it, and I just get like it feels like you said in pop music, you've heard like a few songs and you kind of heard them all, and like
Or
kind of
once you begin to feel that way, you start to feel worn out with so little music in the grand scheme of things.
it was almost like when I started getting. Would you ask when?
No, I'm just saying like that's just what happens.
Right. I just felt like it kind of started when I got better at music. I started being like, I don't want some of these things, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I wanted to touch a bit about the host of people that surround you occasionally, and let's start out with some of the kind of the creative team. What can you tell us about working with Caleb Lavin?
Caleb's awesome, but Caleb didn't work on this record.
Yeah, so he didn't work on this album. He has played a part of the Arthur project before.
Yeah, he mixed the last record, and I just love Caleb. He's one of my best friends. He's pent up in New York right now.
Mm-hmm.
So God knows when I'll see him again, but he's awesome. And people are gonna walk through the frame right now.
Oh yeah, you're good. You're good.
Yes, I will give you a cigarette. This is me giving me and she got me more cigarettes.
Just put these where the other ones are.
Just put them in there. What? Oh, it's food, huh?
No, you're good.
Oh, there's.
Yes.
Sorry.
I'm gonna move locations.
All good.
I'm gonna finish my coffee. We're recording video, so
Whoa. Is this going live?
it's going live.
3, 2, 1.
No shades.
Yeah.
Stratton potentially.
Hey, Strat, you want to shout out? We already shouted you out.
What's up, Stratton?
Hey,
Oh,
Stratton.
Jesse.
Hi. Wait, where were we? Now I'm going out in the yard.
It's funny. People. I think we totally missed context for some people on these interviews. For for background, yeah. Me and Con have known each other for a decent amount of time. We just decided to, have a chat because we've been playing the Arthur music on Impact.
It's probably been like what, 5 or 6 years?
I'm gonna
5
say
years, 4 years, 5 years.
I think it's been 7 years.
It's been 7 years. Sometimes I forget how long it's been since we were like in high school.
Yeah, it's been like 6, 7 years. Jeez.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, back to the.
Well, we're talking about Caleb. Caleb,
Oh yeah, Caleb.
also an old friend, so that goes in. Caleb, old friend, mixed my last record, and that was a blast. That just happened fast, It was just like we had to get it mixed and mastered, so it happened within like 2 weeks or something.
Mm-hmm. How did you feel working with somebody that's mixed and worked with like Frank Ocean and Blood Orange and stuff for touching your sound?
I mean, it was easy because I've known Caleb like before that. I knew him from he found us through our friend Godfrey. Shout out Godfrey, he's awesome. Did a lot of Joygan videos, and like just also old school friend. Introduced me to Caleb just randomly, serendipitously. Caleb really liked it. We worked together on like the Joygan stuff when I was in high school, probably like right after I met you, or like a year after I met you or something. I met Caleb, or maybe same time. I don't remember, man. That was a while ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of takes me into my next question is, I've watched you come up from playing like Dingy Basements and Delco and Philly to co-signs from Frank Ocean. Rosalia's adding you to playlists. Dylan Minette shouts out everything you do. What kind of tension do these like tastemaker-y circles cause?
Like, it's hard because I don't really live in that sphere. It's like, because it's
You're
I love
outside of it.
what do you think?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I was saying you're outside of it, but you're so ambivalent in it just because of the music.
Right. And that's how I like to be, because I don't want to, because it's part of, I think, I don't want to take away, like, I love all these people dearly, or the ones I know, and I'm very appreciative of the people that shout me out that I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't feel like I'm there yet, so I really don't even know how to, like, communicate that idea. Like, I just feel like as successful as I could be, I don't think I'll ever really be there with that,
Yeah, absolutely.
Not like in a way I'm against it. It's just I feel like my brain is too small or something.
I mean, it's hard to fathom that. I mean, we're talking about people that are just, they don't seem like people to the ones outside the music industry, but they are people that couldn't fathom a world that they're in. Like, they couldn't fathom being where they're at as much as you and I couldn't. Being in their shoes.
I still think I don't know. That's just that's another frontier that I've yet to go through, or whatever the phrase. I don't know what it would be, but something.
I think that kind of takes me into my next topic, at least a little bit, which is the track "Biz." Just a lot about it.
I don't know, because I just I just feel like music for me has always been so special, and for some people it's such a fashionable thing. It's like, growing up, people were always like, you should remember that music should be a hobby because it's going to tear you apart if you get rid of something you care about so much and you make it your life. But I have, and I still love it just as much. That's just why I don't listen to that much music. But biz is kind of like people that get into, it's kind of like about like people that get into it inadvertently and easily, and it becomes like a fashionable thing. I mean, that's part of why I think the big world of music is just something I can't really comprehend, because it's something it's like my tether to reality or something. You know what I mean? Like, and some people, it's like it's almost like more part of their lives for them, but it's not like they're what they're using to, I guess they're sustaining themselves with it, but it's not their like lifeblood or something. So I kind of like I get mad, but there's no reason to be mad about anyone, and there's no reason for me to dislike anyone. Even people who hate me, I'm not gonna hate them anymore.
Yeah,
It's fun, man. It's just fun. It's just pure fun.
totally. I think I am also somebody that, I mean, for context, this is my last interview for WDBM to everyone watching, and this is part of my 3-year interview series. And yeah, and when I first made music my job as well, I can speak to quite the same experience. I was so nervous to agree to, to monetizing my music listening habits and
Right.
monetizing my opinions and face and stuff. And that, yeah, I think that song I had to bring up because of that same, like, yeah, that existential fear and the resonance that comes with a song like that. To me, as somebody that, like, a purist, hearing something like that.
Right. And dude, it's so cool, all the things you've done.
Oh, I appreciate, but this is your time.
Oh no, it's our time.
You're right. You know, yeah, this is a conversation. We went into this interview, Arthur and I, we were saying, like, let's give the Arthur WDBM interview, but let's also just make it a conversation Con and Jesse recorded.
Right.
For them. I guess a couple other things I'd like to touch on are a character that's returned throughout the Arthur canon and the music, and I guess the presence online and stuff, is Julie Hare. And
right.
I wanted to hear you touch on Julie Hare for the first time in an interview, I suppose. Kind of let the world in on what this is.
All right, this is going to take a second, I guess. Let me think about it. Julie. I just like that name a ton.
Yeah.
That was like when I was starting to feel frustrated as Arthur, I wanted to be like this other character. It was like if there was like a comic book, there'd be like this girl. She's not necessarily beautiful, she's not necessarily cool, but she is like a part of the sphere, I guess. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Also, she's like kind of evil, because some of like the Sinister songs are Julie's songs. Like Julie is like my counterpart, like my the other jigsaw puzzle piece, and like a really simple jigsaw where it's only 2 pieces or 3 pieces, 4 pieces, 5 pieces. I don't know how many pieces, but just my anger and my frustration, but also like my best friend and my love for the world. Like the feminine and the masculine. Creating a whole within the Arthur identity.
Yeah, so there's a femininity in the Arthur project that shines with the Julie Hare side of it.
Right.
Should we ever expect like a Julie Hare EP or record?
I have no clue.
No clue?
Because like even as like, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Really depends on my mood and like where I'm mentally going.
Yeah.
Like right now I'm still trying to figure out what Arthur is too, so it's hard to like jump around and be like, what is this? What is that? What is this? What is this? Because I'm not really, the narrative isn't like really like shining through for me too much. The sun is, but the narrative, I don't know like where it's gonna go yet. I mean, I do and I don't. Like it used to be, because in my mind Arthur was like all of these things. Like there was a whole story in my head, and like I think as I get into more interactive stuff, that stuff will be cooler if I can like maybe paint more of a picture for people instead of just like leaving like a breadcrumb trail, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think artists that tried to do that in the past include like Daniel Johnson through like the Space Duck series, where he drew out in very abstract forms like a linear story of these ducks that showed how he feels, and they went to different planets that represented different situations that he's in.
He's so cool. I got to read through some of those. I've only ever like looked at some, but I never read like the actual comics.
Oh, it's the sweetest thing. It's exactly what you expect. You know, he's just like guy who loves Casper the Friendly Ghost comics, and it's just his take on that almost. But it's
R.I.P. man.
Yeah, R.I.P. Daniel Johnston.
Yeah.
And that's also another guy who came up in like recording these cassettes and stuff, quite like yourself.
Right.
Do you feel a connection to him through just the medium of recording at all, or is it the sentiment as well?
Yeah, I think anyone that kind of does it, it's become like so fashionable, and I'm not going to say that I was like early on it. I think I was like involved with that idea like before it became like so fashionable that it's almost like a household thing. Is everyone has a 4-track and wants to make their little 4-track demo now.
Yeah.
But Daniel Johnston, like I think like anyone that kind of comes up working on music that way can relate to what he did and his like emotional connection to like, it's just doing for something about the medium is like so it's like ghostly or something. It's like you're leaving an imprint. You're magnetizing something onto a piece of tape that's there for who knows how long, maybe not long at all, because it depends on the kind of like how nice the tape is or what you're using. But I think that what he did is just a really great example of I don't have an end to that, but just
it's
rock.
It's an example of something incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also wanted to ask you about the track "Simple Song" on the record. It's another moment where things get atonal with the guitars.
Oh yeah.
The lyrics really cut. I was wondering what you'd like to say on that one.
That's a song I just kind of had like rolling around for a while, and I wanted to like make it a country song, but it's like it just kind of came out, and I was like, it's just what it is, because it's just almost like more of like it's almost like just represents something like a period in time for me, almost more than like a song, and I like wanted it to be like the messiest song on the record, kind of like almost like a little agitating to listen to. The bass line's all over the place, and the guitars are just like woo, woo, woo. And Andrew added some extra warble too, so it's like especially like out, because I did not tune the guitars. Like I tuned them relatively, but I did not tune them with the tuner. So
I found it to be like listening to it was like you are scaring us away from the personal topic and the lyrics with how all over the place the instrumental is. It makes it almost unlistenable to like a pop ear.
Right, yeah. That's what I want. It kind of is supposed to like the lyrics. It's like a very disenfranchised, like disheveled piece of music, because it's just like it could be like with those chords. Like if I had sang something different or made like happy lyrics, it could be something different. But it's just supposed to be kind of a emotional mess, because that's how I felt when I first wrote that song and when I re-recorded that song. Kind of how I feel now, but.
I find it quite ironic because there's nothing simple about that song.
Right. Yeah.
But yet again, it starts out, this is a simple song.
I guess it's just that simpleness of it is just like, it's like the Resonance song, Simple Song. I never even thought about it. Their song, "We Are Simple, You Are Simple, Life is Simple Too." It's like almost just like making everything so easy that it's like kind of almost like nihilist, or I don't know what the word would be, something fatalist.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just having a conversation with somebody about pop music and how the people that make this stuff that's going to end up in like the world today aren't the ones that are listening to like Travis Scott every day. It's the ones that are listening to the Residents and stuff that them.
I was showing Stratton some like of the like, not, I mean it's all relatively obscure, but like some of the harder to listen to Resonance records that I like, and some like the electronic ones. And he's like, oh, okay, this makes it make a lot more sense why you write music the way you do. And I think it's cool to think about, like, if you can listen to some strange stuff growing up, it gives you a different kind of musical literacy. And I'm really lucky that I had a computer, and like I think that's the brilliance of computers and young people, is that they can discover. There's a lot of bad things on there, but there's also like a lot of freedom that you get. And musical literacy can be born from in a house where your parents don't listen to music and you eat microwave dinners every day, you know.
Any plans for after quarantine? Like, what do you think you're gonna do first?
I am gonna just try and go somewhere very far away for a few weeks and just like try and like feel like I'm on another planet or something, and then come back and try and be a really good friend, try and be a really good uncle, try and be a really good son, try and like just sit and watch things grow instead of watching the world burn, which I kind of feel like is what's going on, you know.
Mm-hmm. You've mentioned becoming better a couple times in this interview. Would you say that there's a bit of a redemptionist arc to Hair of the Dog, or this is kind of you exploring the depths before that?
Yeah, I think this is just like me coming back around, you know, like coming around a bend. And like it doesn't mean necessarily I'm going like towards like the apex or whatever the word be, the climax or whatever. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just like just a new long string of road, you know, just to drive down, and hopefully it's different and the scenery is different, and maybe better is not the right word, but I do want to be just in a new stage of my life after this, because it just feels like some things go on forever, and it feels like I've been in and out of the same thing for God knows how long, you know.
Absolutely. And do you think that this next stage will bring new sounds to your music?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just trying to figure out how to do that organically and not like force it. Because like even for this record, I was like, I want this to be so different from the last record, and it is. It's so different.
It's
But like
night and day. It's night and day album. For anybody who's heard Woof Woof, like they are not prepared for Hair of the Dog.
okay, cool. You think so?
Yeah, absolutely not. They're okay. If we're looking at these two records side by side, there's like this nimbleness that comes with Woof Woof. That like the recordings, they like the production has this dynamic quality. I'm stepping on all my words, but the production is this dynamic quality that provides a nimble nature to the music, I would say. You know, the drums come in and out without being overly punchy. They kind of move together in a way that I guess like a Square Pusher Autechre track would almost do it. But on Hair of the Dog, the records, the drums on the record kind of hit you in the face at points. They're big. The sounds around them have more space.
Mm-hmm.
The sounds around them have more space, causing the cluster to form this. Or what I'm saying is the record is claustrophobic because of the amount of space that you give each instrument to do its thing. They take up so much room in the mix, each of them. Where on Woof Woof, there was quiet and loud moments that would hand off to each other, and here they kind of swirl together.
Right.
There are softer moments. They don't feel softer. It's just in tone almost, in sentiment.
Cool. And that's it. That's the thing I like too, because that's part of production that's kind of hard for me, is that some people are really good at dynamic, and I like dynamic, but I almost like dynamic in a book or like something, or like just watching dynamic in like light or life or something. It's like sometimes the dynamic doesn't have to come from volume, you know. The dynamic is something else, and that's something I've been working on.
I think dynamics and volume can kind of be a bit of a trick too. I think you can have records that are all over the place in sound, but like it doesn't mean that there's high highs and low lows.
Right.
But on Hair of the Dog, there are high highs and low lows there, and that comes more in the context of the record itself. Like William Penn is a super high, almost manic high on the album.
Yeah, right.
It comes with those like those horns that sound out of like an Elephant Six track at the end, and you're saying stuff that's all over the map. Same deal with No Tango, almost like same kind of manic energy. And then on the lower moments of the record, where we're looking at tracks like Simple Song, You Are Mine, Man Has Made Himself.
Right.
Yeah, it does, like the volume doesn't go away. The instruments are often even the same, but like they're played differently. They're setting a different atmosphere, and that's kind of the crux of it. They swirl into this big, bizarre mess in the same way that any other track on the album does to like create, Hair of the Dog as a whole. But like, they're sides of the swirl you can pick out, I guess.
I'm really happy to hear that, because that's what I wanted to do with this record. Is I wanted to go more than one place. I feel like Wolf Wolf is more like it's just some just energy the whole way through. Maybe it's not a whole way through, but it's a like I don't know. It's like more compact or something.
It is, yeah. That I think that's kind of what I was getting at. I definitely rambled a bit a second ago.
No, I liked it because I can't put things like that into words, and you did a really good job.
I think, yeah, there's a breeziness that's lost in Hair of the Dog that Wolf Wolf had. Do you think that your fans are going to need more than a couple listens on this one?
I think so, because I really tried to make this record longer, but it's still, I think it's shorter, right?
I think it's about the same length, more or less.
I think that's cool because consistency is cool. But yeah, I think that because I wrote all the songs, but I still didn't, I still don't know what it's like, because I have to wait until it's like online and the artwork's there and people are listening to it to even know really what it means to me. Mm-hmm. So like, I think that like in the same way that I'm going to have to learn, other people will have to learn too. And that's the interactivity of it, is at least part of it, is that it makes itself, it's its own beast now. It's like my child,
It has obtuse pop, and it's coming out the same day, just by circumstance, as a Charlie XCX record, a Nick Hakim record, a Jerry Paper record, few other of your contemporaries.
Dijon, I think's album's coming out that day. So some of my close friends even.
Jeez. So how do you feel about that?
I feel good about it. I don't really know how that stuff works. At first I was like, oh no, but now I'm like, it would be cool because I know you do those kind of days where you just listen to like a bunch of albums that come out on the same day.
Yeah, I sum up in like 2 sentences what you think people are ready for on your record. What would you say to the fans here in Michigan?
What do I think people are ready for?
Or what? Not ready for. What do you think they're in for with Hair of the Dog?
It's definitely something weird. It's definitely something like a little bit. I think it's a good album. Just since it's short, I think if you can sit down and listen to the whole thing and then I don't even know, maybe watch some cartoons or something like. I don't know. It's like something. It's just something that, because I don't know if it's the kind of record you can live with. It's kind of like a thorn, But hopefully like an enjoyable thorn, like some kind of magical thorn that gives you powers, and then you pull it out and you're like, oh no, I need to put it back in.
Yeah, I've definitely had a magical thorn experience with Hair of the Dog.
Cool. Right, cool. Sometimes I just make up like things like that, and I just like that does not work at all.
No, that sounds about right. I mean, it's sharp. It's a jagged record, but there's creature comforts that come with repeated listens to it. Quite in the same way that like I'd say like the first time I heard I hate this example. But it's Loveless by My Bloody Valentine. The first time
it's a good album.
It's a really good album, but like the first time I heard it, I was taken aback in a similar way that I was to Hair of the Dog, just with how jarring the sounds are.
Right. I like jarring sounds because and also, but that's why soft sounds are so important. But I like exploring that sonic, like just exploring that realm where everything's a little bit agitating, but still, but in the way that it's like pretty too, like using sharp sounds to make pretty melodies and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's pretty excellent description for it. I'd say, yeah, to leave things off for everyone listening in East Lansing, Michigan and beyond, that they're in for obtuse, sharp, jagged pop with a lot to love about it.
Cool.
And thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. And here, I'm going to stop the recording real quick.